What a game last night was. The Raptors won against the New York Knicks 113-104. You are watching Raptors Today. I'm Savanna Hamilton along Paul Jones, and look who is in the house. We got Sherman Hamilton.
I'm back.
Glad to have you back. Be right next to you. Let's get right to the game though. We got to talk about OG Anunoby because he had a crazy game last night. 36 points. Jonesy, talk to me about what you saw offensively from him.
Man, his offense continues to develop. And, you know, you look at his offense and the way he scored. First of all, he made big shots. He made shots to keep the team in the game. And then you look at the variety of ways in which he scored. He scored from three. He scored on mid-range step back. Screen and roll stuff. He went up and scored on alley-oops. And then when he got a smaller defender, he very calmly took him into the post. You know, last year we saw OG, he knew he could do it, but he seemed to be rushing and doing things too quickly on the offensive end. Last night was perfect. He just worked at his own pace. As I said, when he got a smaller player, he took him into the post. He did a good job on the offensive rebounding end. So he scored in so many ways. It's not like the Knicks could say, okay, we're going to choke one thing off, because he just moved on to the next one.
Absolutely. The matchups with him were great, and he really read what he was seeing out there as well. But let's talk defensively, because the Knicks did have 17 turnovers, and with OG being our 3-and-D player, you know, he really contributed to the defense as well, Sherm.
Well, he did, and you think about the team in general, the Knicks got out the blocks very quickly. They were shooting 52% from the floor in that first quarter. The Raptors locked in from the second quarter moving forward, and OG was a big part of that. Julius Randle had 18 points in the first quarter, 4 points the rest of the game, and OG was tasked with defending him. So I just love his intensity, his physicality, and Julius Randle's a bigger player, but OG's ability to hold his ground and not be moved around really proved dividends. And you think about the team overall, I know we'll talk about him, but Gary Trent Jr. was phenomenal in terms of his energy. But I just thought collectively, the buy-in on the defensive end was phenomenal after the first quarter.
Absolutely. You led me right there, because there's two players that really stood out. But let's talk about Gary Trent Jr. first of all. What did you see from him last night?
Boy, his activity on the defensive end is something else. And he looks like, at times, that kid that's had too much coffee to drink. He's all over the place. He's moving, and he's got his hands reaching in. I mean, his first steal of the game, he just outright took the ball from Evan Fournier. And then there was another one where he cracked back and he got in the passing lane. And then he's always digging in there, got his hands going and his feet going, and he'll knock the ball away and then he'll pursue it. So his defense, to me, has been a surprise. I knew he was a good defender. I didn't know he was that active, and his defensive acumen was as good as it was. And then on the offensive end, I just look at the way he plays. He doesn't force things. Things come to him. He takes good shots, balanced. Even his step backs, he comes to a full jump stop and elevates. He's under control. So I really like what Nick Nurse has done by putting him into the starting lineup. I was a fan of Goran and having Gary come off the bench and be kind of thirsty and feed the second unit. But, man, he's fit in really well with this starting group, and I think they've established something.
And it's crazy because he played all 43 minutes last night with 26 points. And as you mentioned, defensively, he contributed 4 steals as well. But somebody else who didn't have as shiny as a stat line, but nonetheless contributed very much to the team, plus 20 in plus minus stat column is Kem Birch. Sherm, we were talking off camera about that specific statistic.
Yeah, you're right, and that's great, a plus 20, but this is where stats don't lie, but they don't tell the whole truth. When you think about Kem Birch's numbers statistically, they're not great, but his impact was very significant. You had to watch to see how active he was, the amount of times that he created situations defensively that helped his team, and then a guy who on the glass was able to bang bodies around where other guys were able to get rebounds. And I thought Kem Birch's consistency, based on what they weren't getting from a Precious Achiuwa that night, I thought he was a real stabilizing force in the front court, moved his feet well, switched out when he had to, and defended at a very high level. And because the other guys like OG, like Fred, like Gary Trent Jr. were playing so well offensively, he wasn't required to do as much on the offensive end. But I thought he had significant impact on the game.
Absolutely. Listen, no Scotty Barnes, no Pascal Siakam, no Yuta Watanabe, no problem. It was a great game last night, and it really goes to show you that this Raptors team is young and hungry. Now, if you don't know, it is the NBA's 75th anniversary as a league, And it's crazy to me to think that the league kicked off right here in Toronto at Maple Leaf Gardens. Jonesy, now Jake was trying to set me up by calling you an NBA historian. I think that's a polite way to put it.
I'm old.
But
I've been there. I didn't cover the game in 46, but I know a little bit about it. And it's crazy, Savanna. Sherman and I were talking about this on the radio. You could get into the building for 75 cents, probably sit courtside for $2.50, and we were wondering how much the snacks cost. But it was the first game ever of the BBA, which morphed into the NBA, and it was right at Maple Leaf Gardens, a place where you've played, Sherm. We've all been in that building, and the first basket was scored by Ozzie Sheckman. And even to get into the building, all you had to do was to be 6'8" or taller, and you had free admission. I wonder how many people would get in free right now, because the game and society has come a long way. And I think about the 75th anniversary, not just on the court stuff, the way the rules have changed. They widened the key because of a guy like Wilt Chamberlain. They changed rules. And then off the court, our own Wayne Embry was part of the development of the Players Association by not going out to play during an All-Star game and forcing the owners to give the players a pension. So the game has really evolved. And I look at what's going on now. They owe a lot to those people that started it back in 46 and the way it's moved to where we have it now, Savanna.
Absolutely. And one thing that sticks out to me is just Canada's impact on the game of basketball in general. Of course, James Naismith, the inventor of basketball, and then Toronto making its mark by kicking off, as you said, the NBA. Now we want to switch topics here. Let's talk about the Raptors again, because they're on a 4-game win streak.
Yeah.
A slight difference than how they started the season 1-3. Sherm, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think, there's an adjustment period. You hit the ground in the beginning 4 games, and the Raptors struggled trying to be consistent in terms of their defense. Offensively, there's so many things that were happening that had to be ironing out. But right now what we're seeing is this team from a defensive perspective is really identifying as a high turnover team, a team that gets out in transition, and a team that in the half court can create a lot of problems for you and make it difficult to move. Offensively, I think they're doing a very good job now understanding how to get offense off. When they're playing transition basketball, they're a much more fluid team. When they're stuck in the half court, the first 4 games, they struggle to score. The last 4, they figured out different ways. You think about the different styles that they've had to play against Orlando, a station-to-station game. Indiana, a little bit more of a possession count than you see against the Knicks. They have the ability to change the game in that third quarter by getting up and down and creating open floor opportunities. So this team is growing, they're learning, and as you mentioned earlier, Savanna, there's still no Pascal. There was no Scotty Barnes against the Knicks. So there's some other pieces that are going to be added to the mix.
Which I cannot wait to see how it's going to happen. And, I would say it's all about team chemistry as well, as you mentioned.
Sure. Yeah.
A lot of, grinding out in the first couple of games. But, now that they found their stride, and I tweeted this out actually not too long ago, the Raptors defense really propels their offense. As you mentioned, they're a transition team. But, Jonesy, what are your thoughts on the last one?
Well, similar to what you guys have said, and I think we're seeing the team forge an identity. As Sherm said, a high turnover team. Even last night, the Knicks turned it over 17 times. The Raptors were a huge plus in terms of points off turnovers. And then I see some roles being defined on the offensive end. Fred figuring out who gets the ball where and when to get his as a point guard, when to do his scoring, when to get people involved. OG's become a guy that they can go to. Roles are becoming more and more defined. We've talked about Gary Trent Jr. finding his spots in terms of catch and shoot, taking it to the goal selectively. And something I've noticed with the Raptors, they're not just living on the three-point line. They are one of the teams in the NBA that is taking more mid-range shots than other teams. They're up there in terms of average number of mid-range shots, which means we're not just going to hang out in the three-point line and chuck it up here and play a low percentage game there. We may have difficulty scoring in the half court. So while 3 is the best, 2 is still better than nothing, and they're willing to take the mid-range stuff.
Absolutely. We're going to hear now from the team, from Ken Birch, OG Anunoby, and of course, head coach Nick Nurse.
Probably just adjusting to how I'm being guarded, watching film, knowing what people are going to be, what people are going to double, and then just reviewing shots, see if I'm rushing it, if I'm sticking my landing, just reviewing the film.
Did you feel like you were?
Yeah, I was rushing things. I wasn't reading the defense. I was predetermining some stuff. So I've just been trying to adjust and learn. I think I'm going to keep learning as the year goes on and get better and better. Probably like turnovers, missed shots, and then missed kickouts to teammates. times I could pass the ball to a teammate that's open, or maybe like a back cut I missed, or one time I got doubled and I threw it over Gary's head. Like just being more patient, reviewing it, seeing if there was like a guy who cut back door, or if I could have hit whoever it was. Just making the easier play, simple plays. Yeah, I want to just look at the good parts. Thank you. Yeah, we just more aggressive on defense and just really following the game plan because they start off really hot, and we know how basketball is. No one's gonna. Well, usually teams don't stay hot, so just sticking to our game plan, knowing we're guarding them well. They're just making tough shots, and if we keep doing what we're supposed to do, it'll turn. And we got runouts, scoring in transition, and then just we're all stepping to our threes, getting to the rim, moving the ball.
I mean, I feel like sometimes you got to sacrifice. If just say someone else was doing well like that, and you know, and then I was on the bench, I wouldn't complain either. I would let them keep rocking, keep rolling, and that's what Coach Nurse does sometimes. So, and I appreciate that. You know, sometimes some coaches have a set rotation, but you know, Coach Nurse goes off the field for the game. Oh yeah, for sure. You know what? I feel like the perception, just because last year I averaged a lot of points, you know, people think I'm having a down year or whatever, but you know what? Like I feel stress-free, and this is I've always been a guy who just wants to make winning plays and I don't care about the box score. So now that you know I'm here, you know I got my contract, whatever, I'm able to show that you know I can just make winning plays. And sometimes some nights I might not have I might have 4 points, some nights I might have 10. So I'm just happy that I've been able to just be stress-free this year and you know contributing wins. Oh, it means you know we're swinging the ball, we're passing, we're being unselfish out there. So and you know we got to win this today. So that's what it shows, that we're playing more unselfish and we're coming as a collective group.
Well, you know, Eric, you know OG. He's always played. You know, he's really always been a good defender ever since day one we got him, and he you know he really prides himself on that end of the floor. And as you also know, we're working on, he's working and we're working on developing a lot of more offense and a lot more opportunities for him. And, you know, I think that, so yeah, we're going to develop a lot more offensive opportunities, but we don't want you to let your foot off the gas at the other end because you're such a, you know, we consider him a, you know, one of the better, you know, top defenders in the league. So it's good that he's getting in shape. He's getting in shape. He's able to play hard at both ends. Yeah, he was really good defensively, Michael. He was up on all things. You know, he was up on guys turning the corner. They really tried to stretch us out there for a bit, where they really sent Walker mainly downhill as fast as he could to try to race by Kem, and Kem kept, you know, making those shots hard. He didn't get them all, but he stopped quite a few of them. And you saw he had a run of offensive rebounds that are really like spirit lifters, right? They keep the spirit high when a guy's just out working them like that. And they're lots of things. He was screening good, passed okay. He had a good game for 6 points. Yeah. Yeah, and then when he did get a chance, he floated a couple in there, so that was kind of cool too. It was great. It really does. I think I've said this a lot back in Canada, but you know, we had a nice setup down there last year, and we did as best as we could, and we thought it was okay. We tried to make do. And when we got back, now looking back on it, it sure is a lot better than we thought. You know, we missed being home a lot more. There's just so much. It just again, didn't really feel like it that much at the time, but now looking back, it just felt like we were floating around, roaming around with like the whole season. You know, it was like, it was a whole season of road games, and there just was no familiarity with anything. And now you get home and you get offices and you walk down the same halls and you see some of your neighbors and, you know, all those things that normal life, as much as we tried to positive speak it down there last year, now that we're back, yeah, it wasn't too good. Yeah. Listen, I think, first of all, talk about Justin. I've liked him from day one, Doug, and I think he's a really tough player. He really plays and plays even when the lights are brighter. You know, you kind of maybe you don't notice him in practice sometimes all that much, but anytime that we kind of get to the first summer league game and it's like, shoot, look at this kid rebound and look at him finish and look at him step up and knock down these threes. And he's a gamer, really got a nose for the ball. And then with Scotty being out, I knew we were going to go to him tonight at some point. And I give Malachi a lot of credit. I thought again, it's been a little tough to squeeze him in as well. But his chances are coming. I think he's had 2 games in a row where he's played. I think he's playing with confidence with the ball. It wasn't easy out there. Quickly was really giving him heat, but he handled it. I think he stepped in the floor and banged a shot right away. He can do that. So those guys, we really needed them tonight, those 2 guys, and they stepped up.
Jonesy and Sherm, they just went for a little bit of a walk, but I got some off-court news and notes for you when it comes to the Toronto Raptors, starting with the new City Edition jerseys. They are straight fire. Oh my goodness. They took the black and the gold and they combined it with the old school throwback logo. Talk about heat. Last night on Twitter, all I saw was take my money, and I can't agree more. And I must say, it's going to be a great holiday gift. I know I'm going to get it for everybody. And in case you missed it, Scotty Barnes was out last night against the Knicks with a right thumb sprain, but don't lose sleep, he will be back soon. But Sam Decker's mom shared some thoughts with Sam over a text message and that Sam ended up sharing on Twitter, of course. She's a huge fan of Scotty's game. But I do have a question for Sam. Sam, what is up with your choice of emoji beside your mom's name? Questions. Pascal Siakam also took the reins this past year on hosting the Halloween party for the Toronto Raptors. They showed out, and our colleagues at Open Gym, well, they captured it all. Check it out.
Hello, McLevin here, and this is my Halloween party, and hope you enjoy it. And let's see what's out there, see everyone's costume. It's about to be fun, so let's get it. This is not MTV Cribs, this is McLevin's party. Got Scotty right here. Justin, what are you supposed to be? Bro, wear your mask. It don't fit on my head. It's kind of crooked, it don't really fit. Good job, man. Come on, let's go. Yo, we got Coach Nick. We got Coach Nick out here. He stole my costume. I'm the real McLovin.
We have karaoke right now, and I'm gonna call the rookies. I'm gonna call the rookies. Come out here, pick a song. I mean, you can go by yourself, or if you want to go as a group, whatever, man. We only have one mic. One mic, so.
Thanks for coming, guys, and have a good time.
And now we're going to look ahead to our next opponent, the Washington Wizards. Now, I'm getting a little deja vu here because we actually did play them in our first home opener right here in Scotiabank Arena, but this is a much different Raptors team that we're seeing on both sides of the ball. So Sherm, you take defense, Jones, you'll take offense, but let's hear it.
Well, first of all, I mean, when we talked about it earlier, the first 4 games of the season, I thought this team was trying to figure out how aggressive to be, understanding positionally where they should be in Nick Nurse's defensive schemes. What we saw in that first game was a team that was trying to figure out who they were defending and how they wanted to play. They're not that same team anymore. They're more aggressive. They're better in the passing lanes. They're a high deflection team now. They're creating turnovers and they're creating offensive opportunities. So I think we're going to see a completely different performance from the Raptors from the defensive side of the ball from game one.
Absolutely. They're finding their groove. They're playing with a man on a string mentality. Their rotations are getting tighter, something that was a little bit different in the game of the season, of course. But now let's talk about the offensive end. What are you seeing out there that's different?
Well, look, one of the guys that struggled in the opening game was OG Anunoby. After the first 2 games, he's had 6 straight games now where he's had 15 or more points. So OG is a guy that, as you said, finding his groove and his role becoming more crystallized and defined. And then when you think about the defense of Washington, Wes Unseld Jr. is a pretty good defensive coach. He's a guy responsible for a lot of the defenses when they were in Denver, so he had an advantage. The defense is always ahead of the offense at the beginning of the year, and they were able to lock the Raptors down. That being said, the Raptors, thanks to the defense that Sherm was talking about, had that game at 15 points and had about a 2-3 minute stretch in the fourth quarter where they could not score. They're not prone to those blackouts anymore because of the way the offense is working. So I expect this to be a much better offensive performance from the Raptors combined with the defense. They've won 4 in a row. They've got to be feeling good going into this game.
Absolutely, and as you mentioned, OG has found his stride. Fred VanVleet found his legs. Shots are dropping for this team, and you love to see it. Now we're going to talk about Montrezl Harrell because he had quite the game against the Raptors the first time that the team has saw the Wizards. Sherm, break it down to me. What do we need to do this time differently?
Well, Montrezl is an energy guy. He's a physical guy. He likes to intimidate when he's on the block and in the paint, and he dominated the Raptors. When you talk about one guy going into the paint and doing what he wanted to, he did that. Again, first 4 games as opposed to the last 4 games, the Raptors are a different team. From an energy perspective, they can match that. From a physicality perspective, they're still figuring some things out. But as we've seen, OG Anunoby has defended up and down in terms of size. So if Montrezl starts to go crazy, they can put a guy like OG on him and try and slow him down. But it's just going to be about the intensity, the effort, the attention to detail, and matching Montrezl's aggressiveness. If they can do that, they can kind of neutralize the impact he can have.
Can't wait to see what happens. You can catch the game tomorrow. That's November 3rd at 7 p.m. Watch it on TSN and listen to it on TSN 1050. From Savanna Hamilton, Paul Jones, Sherman Hamilton, Jake LaRue, Luke, our editor, and Alex, our cameraman, thank you for watching another episode of Raptors Today.